Hey everybody, welcome back to The Loop. All week this week, I want to spend some time looking at the book of Joshua together in the Old Testament. Now, this book is one of my favorite Old Testament books because it's full of adventure, God's promises are fulfilled, the people experience major wins, and then of course, they have to endure a few setbacks. There's so much in this book that is so relevant to our lives. As the book begins, we are reminded that Moses has already died. Because of that, Israel is now going to need a new leader, and his name is going to be Joshua. In some ways, I feel a little bit sorry for Joshua because he has really big shoes to fill. Moses is the only leader that Israel has ever known, and he was really good at his job. I imagine that following Moses as the leader of God's people was a little intimidating for a guy like Joshua. And so God says some things in that very first chapter to try to instill some courage in him. Starting in verse 5, God tells Joshua, "No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn to it from the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go." Like all of us, Joshua wants to be successful in the role that he has. God knows that. In fact, he tells Joshua at the end of verse 7, if you do these things, then you really will be successful wherever you go, whatever you do. So what are the things that Joshua needs to keep in mind? What are those things that Joshua needed to do, and what are the things that you and I need to do? We need to trust in God's promises. We need to remember God's presence, and we need to follow God's plan. God has promised Joshua in verse 5 that no one will be able to stand against him all the days of his life. The New Testament says something similar to us. If God is for us, who can be against us? We need to trust in God's promise. Second, we need to remember God's presence. God told Joshua, just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Jesus said the same thing to his disciples in the New Testament. He said, I will be with you always, even to the very end of the age. We need to remember God's presence. And finally, we need to follow God's plan. God told Joshua, be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. We have to follow God's plan. God knows that sin always leads to setbacks. And so whatever God has given you to do today, if you want to be successful, then be encouraged by his promises, be comforted by his presence, and follow God's plan. When you do those things, God takes full responsibility for the man or the woman who is fully devoted to him.